Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome to the Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad Group and Bhagavad Vani weekly Sunday program. We are very happy today to have our very own Vaishava Dasa Prabhu. He will be speaking on Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 9, the most confidential information that Krishna imparts to Arjun. Prior to that, we will start this servant of Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad Group and Bhagavad Vani will be doing one bhajan and a little bit of kirtan, setting the mood of pure devotional service, and then we will enter into the Hari Katha for today. After the Hari Katha, we will have a question answer session, comments, feedback, reflections by the listeners, a short announcement, and a closing kirtan. Today's closing kirtan will be conducted by His Grace Vaishava Dasa Prabhu. So without further ado, I would like to start with the Bhajan Kirtan session. Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Parine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us bring Sri Vrindavan Dham to our hearts. A wonderful glorification of the holy Vraj Dham. Krishna, his associates, Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Shri Govinda Gopinath Madana Mohana. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Shri Govinda Gopinath Madana Mohana. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Shri Govinda Gopinath Madana Mohana. Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavana Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana. Keshi Ghata Vamshivata Dvadasha Kanana Jaha Sava Leela Koilo Shri Nanda Nandana. Keshi Ghata Vamshivata Dvadasha Kanana Jaha Sava Leela Koilo Shri Nanda Nandana. Shri Nanda Yashoda Jaya Jaya Gopagana Shri Damadi Jaya Jaya Dhenu Vatsaga Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana. Haribo. Jaya Vrishabhanu Jaya Kirtida Sundari Jaya Purnamasi Jaya Abhira Nagari. Haribo. Jaya Jaya Gopeshwara Vrindavana Majha Jaya Jaya Krishna Sakha Vatu Vijaraja Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana. जय राम घाट जय रोहिणी नंदन जय जय वृंदावन वासी जत जन जय द्विजा पत्नी जय नाग कन्या गण भक्ति ते जहर पाइल गोविंद चरण जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन जय रास मंडल जय जय राधा श्याम जय जय रास लीला सर्व मनोरम जय उज्ज्वल रस जय सर्व रस सार पर किया भावे जा प्रजेत प्रचार जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन जय श्री जानव पाद पद्म कोरिया स्मरण दीना कृष्ण दासे कोय नाम संकीर्तन जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन कालिंदी जमुना जय जय महावान जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन जय राधे जय कृष्ण जय वृंदावन हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Gaur Hari. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Gaur Hari. Nitai Gauranga, Gaur Hari. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe Radhe. Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandamate Gati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohana Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadruma Srimad Ratnangada Simhasanasto Shri Srila Radha Govinda Devo Presthalivi Sevyamano Smarami Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe Radhe. Shriman Rasarasarambi Vanshivata Sthitaha Karshaner Swaner Venu Gopi Shri Gopinathaya Shreyastuna Jaya Radha Gopinatha Radha Gopinath Radhe Radhe. Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Lalita Vishakha Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Vrindavana Dham Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai. Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Ho Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada Guru Dev Jaya Gurudev Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Once again, welcome to the Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad Group and Bhagavad Vani weekly Sunday program. And today's speaker is none other than our very own His Grace Vaishava Dasa Prabhu. He doesn't need much of an introduction, but nevertheless, we have to follow certain Vaishnava etiquette and a rule where we should formally always introduce the Vyas Katha, the one who is sitting on the Vyas Dev's seat. So, Vaishava Dasa Prabhu, born in Durban, South Africa, initiated by His Holiness Bhakti Marg Swami. He was attracted to Krishna consciousness over 30 years, and together with his family, they have ardently really served ISKCON. They launched the first Sunday school for the kids in Toronto, ISKCON Toronto Temple, and they were the pioneers or one of the founders, in the opening of the ISKCON Brampton Temple. And he has conducted many courses towards the Bhakti Shastri degree. So presently, he is serving the Bhakti Vedanta Bhagavad Group and the Bhagavad Vani, and of course, all the Vaishnavas in the form of imparting some wonderful Hari Katha. So without further ado, I would like to invite His Grace Vaishava Dasa Prabhu. Vaishava Dasa Prabhuji, he will be speaking on chapter number 9 from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is the most confidential information. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, sound check. Everything is okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Sound check
Thank
is
you.
good. We can hear you loud and clear.
Well, dear Sachit Prabhu, thank you for that nice rendition of Jai Radha Madhava. That's so special. I remember in the early days when we came to ISKCON, some of the devotees would sing that song in some of the home programs. And it was a real big attraction to become a devotee of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And thank you for bringing that song up. It's just beautiful, especially this time of the year as we approach Diwali, Damodar Leela, Kartik, etc. Very special and so sweet. And also for the very nice words about some of the work that we've done. And as you know that behind all this activity is Prabhupada and the mission itself. We are just purely blessed souls to have the opportunity to get some seva within this amazing institution called ISKCON. And thank you for those words. Now today's subject is a very nice subject, right in the center of the book, the most confidential knowledge. And Krishna talks about knowledge in early part of Bhagavad Gita, but there are different levels of knowledge. And yet the stress is being made that this is going to be the most confidential knowledge. So I'll try and chant the first sloka, and then we'll start the class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So if you had your Bhagavad Gitas in front of you, it would be nice. but we'll move ahead anyway. So I'm going over text 1 of the most confidential knowledge, chapter 9 in the Bhagavad Gita. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guyatamam pravakshyami anusuyave jnanam vigyanam shahitam yajnatva moksha asubhat. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved from the miseries of material existence." There's so much that could be said in this particular sloka. Omagyanam timirandasya gyanan janashalakaya chakshuram yena tasmai sri guruve nama. I was born in the mode of darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Guyam, one of the words that stands out here is Guyam, because that will be most of the theme of this particular chapter, the secretive, the confidential nature of the subject matter that's being discussed. And Jnanam, and this Vijnanam, there's Jnanam and Vijnanam. Both, Krishna says, I'm telling you this, and if you understand this, then you'll be free from all the miseries of your existence. Now, to get a better understanding of this, I'm going to go to the Srila Prabhupada's purport and read a little bit from there. Discussion of Krishna is very potent. And if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards a spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to a higher elevation in his potent service, describes in the 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. Now, the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada goes on to say, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. They are called more confidential, but matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed, pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. I'd like to make another point that Prabhupada makes here. It is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. That's very, very important. Very important. So please don't think that the devotees are simply ordinary people. Now, Krishna is very careful here because he says to Arjuna, Pasyame me yogam aishvairam. He's going to talk about that later. And that's going to be more details about his mystic opulence. Now, the problem in society is that if we are very successful, if we are a great speaker, we're a great singer, we're a great actor, we're a great achiever in society, we simply cannot help but speak about these things to people that are close to us and sometimes people that are not so close to us. What is the problem with that? If we go around saying, I made $1 million this year, and I built such a magnificent house, and my son or daughter got married to the most magnificent person on the planet, and I drive a very spectacular car, jealousy immediately raises its head in the person that's listening to you. It's something that just can't be handled or tolerated sometimes. So Krishna says to Arjuna, you know what? I'm speaking this very secretive and very special information I'm going to share with you about myself in the next few slokas. Why I'm doing this to you particularly because of Anusuyave. That means you are non-envious. You're a non-envious person. That is why I will be describing to you this most confidential knowledge. So while that must be so for Krishna, that he can share this amazing information with Arjuna, but the lesson that we have to learn is that in our daily life, we cannot go around talking about Pasyame Yogam Aishvaram. Behold my mystic opulence. Look what I have achieved, to the general public, because that's going to come back with the arrows of envy, and that will cause you some serious problem. So we don't have to do that. But Krishna can do that because he can tolerate all the slings and arrows that's thrown at him. So in the next sloka, another important sloka here. This is Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyayam. Translation. This knowledge is the king of knowledge, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion, it is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Now, most of these devotees understand this pratyaksha avagamam. That means the only reason why the International Society for Krishna Consciousness has grown so amazingly popular is because of this direct perception. Their personal experience while performing devotional service brings them so much of bliss never experienced before. That is why we are finding that our movement, the Hare Krishna movement, is spreading all over the world, and so many new centers are opening. And very soon, the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium will be opening, and that's going to attract millions and millions of people, and that will give more glory to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Why? All this is because of this direct perception. Most of you, when you go to a home program or you hear the kirtan in the street, you're attracted. And when you participate in the kirtan, you feel a kind of a joy that you've never experienced before. It's an out-of-body experience. And when you perform devotional service, whether it's Ratha Yatra, or whether it's in the temple, or whether it's in a home program, Matajis, they fervently race to get the prasadam ready for the visiting devotees. In the temple, those devotees that are preparing prasadam are also working feverishly. And the result is absolutely amazing. The combination of prasadam, the katha in the temple, the beauty of the deities, their chanting, their dancing, all put together gives an amazing out of this world experience. And that is what we call direct experience. Now, if I read Prabhupada's purport, this chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. It is the essence of all doctrines and everything. Even if you listen to the Sat Sat Goswami song, you will come across in the second sloka, Nana Shastra, etc., that the six Goswamis, they've studied all literatures, all Arabic literatures, Christian literatures, Buddhist literatures, all Vedic literatures, and they've come to the conclusion that this path provided by the International Society for Consciousness is the topmost, the purest, and the most advanced. So this king of knowledge, it all culminates in devotional service. And we look at the next sentence of Prabhupada. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge, knowledge that relates to the body and all those things that please the body. All education in all the universities are merely to help you to earn a decent paycheck, to understand the workings of this world, and probably earn some degree and become a scientist or a lecturer or a professor, etc. But none of that education, though it's so valuable in your day-to-day experience and to maintain yourself and your family, it's needed, it's necessary, it's part of this creation. So that knowledge is necessary. So please don't think that we are discarding that. We say you must accept that. But at the same time, the higher knowledge of the internal relationships between the devotee, the pure soul, and the super soul, that's the super knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. So that is what this most confidential knowledge is referring to. But unfortunately, Prabhupada says there's no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Everything that is taught to you is about what will pass away, everything that is temporary. But what is permanent, as taught in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, that's not taught to you. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the second chapter onwards, stresses the importance of the soul. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that the soul is different from this body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that gives no positive information about the soul. So the soul remains. Now, the problem is, some people say that when the body is dead, everything is dead. But that's difficult to comprehend because the soul remains in the void and becomes impersonal. That is what they allude to. But actually, that is not a fact. How can the soul, which is so active within the body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. The activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. So now we're going to move on to the third sloka. And the third sloka is simply about a person. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all that. Therefore, after reading Bhagavad Gita, one should promptly come to the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and adopt the service of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. If one is convinced of this philosophy of life, that is called faith. Now we're going to talk about faith and the three different categories of faith. Now, the development of that faith is the process of Krishna consciousness. There are three divisions of Krishna conscious men. In the third class, there are people who join the Hare Krishna movement, but they have no faith. They just come and they go. Even if they are officially engaged in devotional service, they cannot achieve the highest perfectional state. Most probably, they will slip after some time. They may become engaged, but because they haven't complete conviction and faith, it is very difficult for them to continue in Krishna consciousness. So please don't be despondent when you find some people that join the Hare Krishna movement and you spend so much of time educating them and sharing so much of knowledge with them, you find that they leave the movement. Well, that is because of a lack of faith. The next, we have practical experience in discharging our missionary activity that some people come and apply themselves to Krishna with some hidden motive. And as soon as they are economically well situated, they give up this process. Well, you know, in 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says there are 4 types of people that approach me. And a lot of them are in distress, or they have physical kind of ailments. They have some issue, or they are doubtful about life, etc. etc. They approach Krishna in distress. And these people sometimes, when the difficult situation is alleviated and they feel relieved of the problems that they had, they feel they can manage on their own. They don't need God anymore. So God is like a order supplier, that whenever you have a problem, you knock on the door of the church or the temple or the mosque, you go in there, you pray for some relief from your problems, and when that is satisfied, you're back to your sinful activities again. So this is a perpetual cycle of sinful life, life after life. So anyway, it is only by faith one can advance in Krishna consciousness. As far as the development of faith is concerned, one who is well versed in the literature of devotional service and has attained the stage of firm faith is called a first class Krishna conscious person. And in the second class are those who are not very advanced in understanding the devotional scriptures, but who automatically have firm faith that Krishna Bhakti or service to Krishna is the best cause, and in so good faith they have taken it up. Thus they are superior to the third class. That's amazing. That's amazing. Because you got some people that are not very advanced in the scriptures. They cannot quote slokas just on the tip of the tongue. They cannot give nice classes. They like to hear classes. They like to hear other people singing or dance, but they just cannot do this. But they are so sincere in this service. I've seen in Vrindavan, Mayapur, Toronto, and many, many temples, you'll find ladies sitting on the floor making garlands for the deities, and they have a kind of an insignificant kind of position. Kind, it looks insignificant. And then you got the big sannyasis who are very advanced, who have many, many seniors in the movement. And when they walk past, they sort of, demand a kind of respect. Not that they demand it, but it's sort of given to them, and they are held in high esteem. And there are many long-serving devotees in the temples who are recognized for the long service, that are given so much respect. But behind the scenes, there are those people that clean the toilets of the temple, that make it so comfortable for you. There are those people that bring the boga to the temple, undergo such uh, hazardous traffic situations. There are those people that suffer heat and cold, that make it to the temple to do the pujari work, so that when you show up, the deities are looking so beautiful. There are many of these people behind the scenes, that they're not seen in the front line giving classes or singing beautiful songs. They seem to be forgotten. But you know what? Krishna does not forget them. So they are recognized as even more better situated than that first class devotee, even though they may be deemed a second class devotee. Thus, they are superior to the third class, who have neither perfect knowledge, but that's the third class, that's the other class. The third class person, Krishna Kant, may fall down, but when he's in the second class, he does not fall down. So that brand new devotee, neophyte devotee, who approaches Hare Krishna movement, he reads our Bhagavad Gita. The next day he walks on the street, he meets a Jehovah's Witness, and the Jehovah's Witness says, well, you're Hare Krishnas, you're pray to a stone god, you'll have so much of rituals, etc., and you'll have many gods. Why don't you approach this one God type of philosophy? And Jesus Christ is the way, the only way. And this weak devotee who hasn't read all the scriptures, etc., he gives in. But that's not a bad thing. He's giving in to another level of religiosity, let's put it that way. He's still in the fold, but in another hospital. It's just a different hospital where it'll take him some time to get cured. So anyway, that's the third class. But the second class was very advanced in his knowledge. He cannot fall down. He cannot give up his Krishna consciousness for another path because he's fixed and he knows he has this amazing jewel that he does not have to share with anybody else. So anyway, so that's the three classes of devotees. So he talks about first class attachment, second class attachment, and third class attachment. And these are all under jnana, karma, and yoga. So these are different categories. We don't want to go into discussion in them. Now, very interesting, we come to the next section of this confidential knowledge. And this is the most difficult part. Whenever we did Bhagavad Gita courses, the students were having a tough time with these slokas from 4 to 10. This is the Achintya Bheda Bheda feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's going to be discussed in the next few slokas. Krishna says, I'm in everything, I'm not in everything. Everybody is in me, they are not in me. In each sloka, there's contradictions and it's very, very confusing. So we're going to look at the fourth sloka. Mayantatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta mutina matstani sarva bhutani nacham tesa avistataha. Translation. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. In my unmanifested form, this entire universe is manifested. That's quite true. We talk about Krishna's manifest pastimes and unmanifest pastimes. He's unmanifested to us because we don't have the spiritual eyes to see him. But he's manifested in Goloka Vrindavan, where he's having his pastimes on a daily basis. But his energy pervades everything. It is his energy that pervades all. And all beings are in me, but I'm not in them. Yet he is in them, because we just say that the Paramatma is situated in every living entity. So how can he say, I'm not in them, when he's actually in them? So the Paramatma feature is actually a different feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's his localized representation in the heart of every living entity. So we can read here. Thus for people in general, he is not visible. Yet is said that although he is all-pervading, everywhere present, he is not conceivable by material senses. Absolutely correct. Because you need to have spiritual vision to see what is spiritual. With these blunt material senses or non-purified senses, it'll be very difficult to perceive or conceive this supreme being. This is indicated here by the word avyakta murtina. But actually, although we cannot see him, everything is resting on him. Just as the sunshine is spread all over the universe, the energy of the Lord is spread all over the creation, and everything is resting on that energy. Yet one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, like the Mayavadis say, the Supreme Lord has become divided. Because he is spread all over the universe, he has lost his individuality and he's become all of everything else. So everything is one. So we're going to deal with that. Now there's a sloka from the Srimad Bhagavatam in the second canto, first canto, second chapter, verse 11. I'm going to read you the Sanskrit. Vedanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmayati paramayati Bhagavan iti sabjate. You got to be very, very careful when we read this particular sloka. It is said the learned transcendentalists have concluded that this non-dual substance, which is the Supreme Being, can be understood as Brahma eti, Supreme Brahman, Paramati, localized Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So now, in our Krishna consciousness and the way we understand things, we accept the Bhagavan feature of this particular sloka. That Krishna is Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this Bhagavan includes the Brahmayati, Brahma Jyoti, and the Paramati. It includes everything. Whereas the other transcendentalists, now there's three types of transcendentalists. The Hare Krishna devotees, or those believe in the personality of Godhead. Then there's those transcendent who believe in the Brahman, Brahma Jyoti, and there's those transcendentalists that believe in the Paramatma. So there's three of them. They are very advanced people, and they all may not eat meat. They may observe so much of rules and regulations, but they differ in their different ways of approaching the Supreme Being. Some groups will approach the Brahma Jyoti, some groups will approach the Paramatma, and some will approach Bhagavan. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is focused on the Bhagavan feature. Now, there can be many descriptions. Prabhupada talks about sun, sunshine, fire, heat, and light. You cannot separate heat and light from fire. Yet heat and light are different from fire. Yet they cannot be separated. They're all parts of the same. Then you take the sun and the sunshine. The sunshine is from the sun, yet the sunshine is not the sun. So Prabhupada talks about the sun disk, the sun planet, and the sun deity itself. When you take a look at Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So he describes them in those three categories. So we have to be very, very careful and non-disrespectful to these other types of worshippers, because they are following Krishna in a different way. They are all transcendentalists. We have to be very, very careful about that. So if we look at verse 5, it says, yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Pasyame yogam aishvar. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation, for my very self is the source of creation. Now, we don't want to go into the seminar now on the creation itself, but we know that the Supreme Lord glances at the material energy and energizes the process of creation. And then we get the three Vishnus that form part of this creative process. And then we get the birth of Brahma, the appearance of Lord Brahma. And Brahma actually places all the living entities according to the previous life's memories and experiences into bodies that are suitable for those experiences that they had in the previous life. So if in this life you're inclined to particular types of activities, or you have certain food taste or desires, etc., 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 or all you're doing in this life, you're engineering your next body. That's all you're doing. And Bhagavad Gita is trying to train you not to engineer another body, but to go back to your original spiritual body that's waiting for you. So that is what Bhagavad Gita is trying to do for you. Take you back to your original home in the spiritual world. And all this talk by Krishna to Arjuna about confidential knowledge is actually for our benefit, So when we go through all this purificatory process by listening to all this knowledge and our minds become clear, then we can redirect our goals. Instead of coming back here, we can go back to the spiritual world. So verses 4 to 9 or 10 actually talks about this achintya beda beda tattva concept. And he says here, just as the mighty wind, O Arjuna, the mighty wind, Sarvago Mahan, that means this mighty wind is moving, Yata Aksha, Stita, within this sky, it is governed by the sky. Similarly, all living entities are within me. Similarly, as the mighty wind has its limitations of the sky, everybody has limitations. You cannot go beyond certain distances. You're governed by the laws of material nature. So then Krishna says, O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another, well, it's talking about the perpetual creative process. And this is a very important verse. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So there you go. Nothing is permanent. Even the creation is created and destroyed. So the key words here, it is under my will that everything is operating under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it looks like it's automatic. Like, now this fellow Tesla, he's got this car, this self-driving car that burnt up so many people because they didn't know how to operate these cars. But it's self-driving, as if these cars drive themselves. Yes, they do drive themselves, but they've been manipulated in such a way by a human brain so that they can drive themselves. But if somebody is completely ignorant, they will say, look how these cars drive themselves. It's amazing. So this entire world, the rising of the sun in the morning, the setting of the sun, the rising of the moon, the tides, the wind, and everything that's going on, it seems as if it is all automatic. And only a Buddha or our Buddhaya, one without brains, will say, look, this is all science. This is all science. This is all done by material nature. It's all conducted by material nature. Yes, it's conducted by material nature, but under the superintendence of a brain, of a higher intelligent being. So that's what we have to understand. And when we accept that there is a God, then maybe our life will improve a bit because we'll be on the right path. So Krishna says, none of this work can bind me because there's no karma for me. Yes, there's no karma for Krishna because he's not attached to anything that he does. He's free from all reaction of his so-called actions. Now, next important verse that everybody should learn, Maya Ajaksha Prakrite Suyata Sa Chara Acharam Etuanena Kuntaya Jagat Vipirapatate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Okay, Krishna is saying the same kind of things again. But the key thing is Aksha. Aksha, the word here is Adi Aksha. Under my eyes, that's under my supervision, this material world is being created and annihilated. So nothing is happening by some freak situation, some big bang that all of a sudden the mass of material elements decided to explode and we've got all this rotating and revolving objects in the atmosphere, and they became planets and solar systems and universes. No, no, no. All this is happening under the superintendence of a higher intelligent being, and that is God, and that God is Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. So Krishna is trying to emphasize this in chapter 10. That is why he said to Arjuna, you know what? I'm going to talk to you stuff that's so crazy. Don't get envious. I know I'm speaking this to you because you're unsaved, you're non-envious. I'm going to tell you how I am God, and I'm the producer, I'm the annihilator. I withhold wind, I withhold rain, I do all these kind of things. Now that section's finished. Now we're coming to a crazy section. Text number 11. Avajana anti mam muda manusam tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhutam maheshwaram. So the question's being asked here, if Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he's got this inconceivable nature that he can do so many amazing things, then why do some of the people on this planet do not become God conscious? Why do they not become God conscious? So Krishna says, fools, fools, mudas, deride me when I descend in my human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme Lord of all that be. They do not know. So the Prabhupada's purport, the personality of Godhead who conducts this creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original personality of Godhead, the supreme personality of Godhead, as indicated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. There are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad Gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. Therefore, he is called Muda. Muda, for only foolish persons consider Krishna an ordinary man. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. Now, if we go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 9, chapter 4, verse 9, Krishna says in chapter 4, verse 9, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyakta deham punah janma naiti mam eti sa arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving his body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. So here's the opposite of this Muda, the one who knows the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and disappearance and his pastime. He does not take birth again. So now, these Mudas and these kind of atheistic people, we go to next sloka, there's a description of what happens to them. Moga asa, moga karmana, moga jnana, visetasa, raksasim, asurim, cha eva, prakritim, mohinim, shrita. Here's the translation by His Divine Grace. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by the demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So we got to be very careful. This is what Prabhupada says. We're talking about devotees of Hare Krishna. There are many devotees who assume themselves to be in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, but at heart, they do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as the absolute truth. There are many devotees within ISKCON who are posing as topmost devotees, but they do not accept Krishna as the absolute truth. For them, the fruit of devotional service, going back to Godhead, will never be tasted. They will never experience it. Similarly, those who engage in fruitive, pious activities and who are ultimately hoping to be liberated from this material entanglement will never be successful either. There's a class of men that's described early on who do many ritualistic activities for advancement to the heavenly planets, etc. There's no success for them because they deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, persons who mock Krishna are to be understood to be demoniac or atheistic. With such a false conviction, they think the body of any human being is now simply covered by material nature, and that as soon as one is liberated from this body, there is no difference between God and the individual himself. This attempt to become one with Krishna will be baffled as well. Baffled in their actions, baffled in their hopes, and baffled in the knowledge. It is a great offense, therefore, to consider Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be an ordinary man. Their destiny is certainly to take birth after birth in the species of atheistic and demoniac life. Perpetually, their real knowledge will remain under delusion, and gradually they will regress to the darkest region of creation. So this is the result of all our friends who say that Krishna is an ordinary man, Krishna is not God, just a man who came down, part of history, performed some miracles, etc., and that's it. So that is their destination, demonic life, way down. Now there's the next class of men called the Mahatmas. These are the devotees of the Lord, but they're not the Mahatmas as generally people know as Mahatmas. So we're going to understand what is the definition of a true Mahatma. Mahatmas tu mam pata daivim prakritim asritaha pajanti ananya manasa yatvam bhuta adi maveyam. Translation, O son of Prita, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this verse, the description of a Mahatma is clearly given. The first sign of a Mahatma is that he is already in the divine nature. He is not under the control of material nature. And how is this affected? This is explained in 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, at once becomes freed from the control of material nature. The Mahatma does not divert his attention to anything outside Krishna because he knows perfectly well that Krishna is the original Supreme Person, the cause of all causes. There is no doubt about it. Such a Mahatma, a great soul, develops to association with other Mahatmas, pure devotees. Pure devotees are not even attracted by Krishna's other features, such as the four-armed Mahavishnu. They are simply attracted by the two-armed form of Krishna. They are not attracted to other features of Krishna, nor are they concerned with any form of a demigod or of any human being. They meditate only upon Krishna and Krishna consciousness. They are always engaged in swerving service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. So I think that is a lot for today. It's really a ton of information, and I will hold the class here, suspended until we get another opportunity. I want to thank you all so much for your tolerance, your patience, and your attention. And now I'll hand you back to our MC, His Grace, Satchit Ananda Das.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. This chapter of number 9 of the most confidential knowledge is indeed confidential. Not everybody can quickly understand it at the first hearing or perhaps the first reading. And if we are very diligent, then Srila Prabhupada's purpose will be our real beacon. And those devotees like yourself who has understood the subject matter. So at this time, I would like to invite any of the listeners to who may have some questions or queries. Um, please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Vaishnadas Prabhu if there's any clarification required or any comments or any reflections that you wish to. So yes, Kavita Mataji, go ahead, please. Please, oh, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry, 1 second. Go ahead, you can do it now.
I have a question. Do you